Oh, it's 7 p.m. where I'm at, 8 p.m. on the East Coast, 5 p.m. on the West Coast. So you're probably what? Let me see. You're probably 10 a.m., right?
10 a.m. on the knocker, mate.
There we go, man. Another day, another dollar, and you just show up. I read your post, and it's going to take a couple of minutes. I read your post. I thought it was fantastic. Two things I want to say to you. All right, we're good. I saw that picture of Kirsty where she's standing. Jesus Christ, man! If that's not the language of the world that we're creating, then nothing is. I
Boom,
mean,
mate. Boom.
I don't even comment on anything. I don't really have time, you know. And but when I saw it, it just hit me, and I just went, "Wow!" Like, what is the wow? I don't even know. It's the code she carries, you know. It's the code that we're all stepping into beyond masculine and feminine. You know, it was just amazing. Then I read your post. I actually found your post through her sharing it and her words about you, which was kind of cool. Uh, and all I could think about was because she said, "Wow, you know, this man, he knows what it is because you can only get there." Uh, how did she put it? I'm just going to put it my way. You can only get you don't just get there through the successes, but the failures, and you don't get there. I guess in another way, I took it was like unless you've shown your ass, you know, and then I guess you find the value of the intention and the actions taken. That's where the real measure is to me. It's not in the expression because sometimes we're shadowed and sometimes we're good and sometimes we're on our game and sometimes we're not. But yeah, so it was powerful. And all I could think of was, well, we got divorced 50 times. So I thought, well, there it is. It's none of it's going away. You know, if it's not going to be with her in terms of working something out or me or whoever it is, you know, I think we had to all go through periods of, people talk about boundaries and they talk about, oh, I'm walking away. Well, you better be very careful because this whole trip is about us, and us is me for me and you for you. And, you know, it's all right there. If we'll look at it, that's the only thing. But listen, this is, I think, going to be a very special show. We've had major technology issues on the first two shows. I had to use Zoom. I didn't even know if this was going to work, but it is. And I'm honored and I'm not just blowing smoke. This isn't the climate to be blowing smoke. When in doubt, keep your fucking mouth shut, right? But I just have this. I don't know what it is. This pull, you can call it whatever you want, towards Australia, but there's just like family, and I don't know if this is something that for me is regional to that area, but I've always had this. And as I get to know you and Kirsty and many others over there, very familiar. I feel the collaboration and the connection, and as a fellow soldier, SOUL, I just have a lot of respect for you, and it's an honor for you, to be on here always. You and your beautiful, beloved, gorgeous, incredible, intelligent wife, and together and separate. But yeah, I think today we're going to talk about what's happening. I believe I talked to Morgan last night, and I said, James is going to tell the hero's journey. She said, no. The post also said, like, what's happening? How is it coming in? And then, of course, I read the post that you put up yesterday. And if anybody hasn't seen that post by James, they put up yesterday and shared by Kirsty, it's powerful. powerful, simple, profound, conveyance of the real shit. That's all I could say. So welcome again, and we got plenty of time. So the floor is yours. Where do you want to start?
I just want to say thanks.
Hmm.
Oh, all right, come on here and get out to all the Aussies on. By the looks of it, there's a lot of Aussies on today.
Yeah, we got Queensland, and I'm not sure where Sasha is anymore. I think she used to be in Byron Bay, but I think they're moving everybody out. They're trying to get away from the quarantines, right?
Oh, it's not that bad. Byron's just over there, 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
And although I always remain in the hills. It's,
Smart.
Yeah, well, it's pretty. You got to be careful around here. Like in the 60s, I think it was, Byron Bay was actually a radioactive dump.
Was it really?
Yeah. But indigenously, it's actually the womb. So it's fascinating that white man would dump toxic waste in the womb, and it's so symbolic. And they built a new Woolworths complex there, which is like a big supermarket, like not quite nowhere near a Walmart, but like you get your groceries there. And also they put a cinema on top of it, and they went to dig underground to make an underground car park, and they immediately hit radioactive waste. But it's amazing what a bit of money and knowing a few people can sort out after a few years. So the thing's there and it's built. But I really find it fascinating that energetically on the planet we would do something like that, which to something so special. Yeah, it's quite fun.
It's about par for the course.
Yeah, true. But I mean, it's also quite significant about the work that we've been doing at the moment. Like not only on myself with Kirsty, but just the people that we help as well. And it's this massive forgiveness from the feminine at the moment to the masculine. And having been part of a series of processes where the work was I was holding the masculine. Like for so long, I struggled for some time to accept the responsibility of bearing the energy that so many women will use to bear the brunt of their soul and hatred towards the masculine. And I'd go into process in a workshop and stuff like this, and I'd say, okay, is there someone who embodies the energy that you need to clear to a woman? And I don't even know why I'd ask the bloody question, because I knew exactly who they're going to pick. And just clean myself off, get myself ready for it, and became very, very adept at letting energy flow over me. And but I also had to realize that was because there was so much wounding also in myself. And so therefore I often would attract that. But coming to this place now of like having this deep forgiveness from my feminine inside, which caused resentment from my masculine towards my feminine, because I didn't feel that my feminine actually honored me or saw me fully. And so there was a feeling of lack of acknowledgement within myself. And so that caused this internal struggle, which would then cause the external world for me to see a small comment from Kirsty or my two daughters. And I go, I do so much, and yet I don't get seen. And that was the only reason why I wasn't allowing myself to be seen and taking on that one comment as opposed to the 10 other loving comments, was because of this lack of forgiveness actually within my internal masculine and feminine. And so coming to that place of surrender, where the masculine can lay down the arms and no longer go into fight against my feminine, and the feminine can lay down her arms and actually allow herself to be embraced, is really transformative and so reflective right now to, I think, what's actually by so many strong women. Like this is, we've said, for you and I've talked about this at the moment, that there's a lot of women out there leading men from a feminine perspective as opposed to a dominant masculine leadership point of view. And it's like, some people ask, how does that happen? I use the analogy, the feminine draws us, because like a bloke, when an amazing goddess walks in the room, you know what I'm talking about. Mind you, if you're goddess, you don't even need her in the room. But man will feel a presence, won't we? We'll feel her. And so she can draw our energy towards something as opposed to the masculine pushing us towards something. It's the easiest. I know that's a slight clunky definition, but it's the easiest one I can think. So I get this real sense with the work at the moment, done on an individual male level or an individual female level, with the dance of these two energies inside. That's the way we're going.
Yeah. Yeah. And has the real dance begun? Because no doubt that and I'm speaking energetically, because certainly it's in all of us, like you speak of the feminine within yourself, right? That feminine energy is taking the higher ground and has for a long time. Whether we want to say it or not, but you just look at these communities. I can only go back 10 years, and they've dominated if you look at the way these groups are populated, it's whatever the percentages is, but it has been a vast majority of women. It's come down, like Soulogy's at 35% male now. So I got to believe that even in the collective experience we're having, because it's that feminine energy that said enough is enough, and all the shit's coming down now. But there's another part. That's why I say, has a dance begun? Because I think there's enough masculine energy that's found its wherewithal, and has the ground is stabilized beneath his feet. This is the energetic he, so that part of us, that masculine, begins to transform. Which then, that's why I said, has the dance begun? It would make sense that then the pressure, the good pressure, the pressure of creation and new creation is felt by that feminine part of us, and then it begins to transform again. And then the pressure back to the masculine side, and this is the dance. This is my humble opinion.
I feel you on that, brother. I so feel you. It's like it's when I watched in myself, but then when I watch in a man, they come to this place where they are uncertain. So often they sit down and let the woman in their life run the house, make large scale decisions, etc. My mum told a story. Like, my father was an amazing guy, farmer, priest, had been to war, lots of different things. And he, in the district, he was known as a really, really solid man who, if you had a farming issue, you'd often go and ask if you'd have a cup of tea with Alan Greenshields, or if you, he was a spiritual gateway for so many though too. So, but Mum once told me that her mother, so my grandmother, upon marrying Dad, said, right, now Mary, that's my mother, Mary, here's a lesson. He's a priest, so in public, you must always do as he says. In the bedroom, he's yours. And so this is my grandmother, right? Who was like prim and proper and never spoke, a rude word in her life. You'd never swear around my grandmother. But her whole point is, like, in the house, that's when you say it as it is, and I watch my father quite regularly just allow Mum to run the show in many respects. And I remember, especially in my flat periods when I was depressed or traumatized, going through post-traumatic stress particularly, I'd step down and I'd really just, I didn't have much left in the tank anyway. So I let Kirsty just get up and run everything. And that was exhausting for her in so many respects. And it built resentment as well. But funnily enough, then it became, when I started to heal inside and step up, it was a clash of the superpowers, because she was saying, no, I quite like these pants, and like, I quite like making decisions. And it's like, yeah, they're my pants though. You can't make decisions in my pants. And well, hold on. Won't go there. But,
go there.
This is where Morgan chimes in for a comment. But the point of it is, it's like now coming to that space where, like, the masculine being the rock, and watching the feminine and all her fury and beauty and turbulence at times just go wild, but just instead of like leaning back, now leaning in and creating that union. I don't know if you've ever heard of a guy called Jane 108, Jane Mathematic. He Jain. I think on Facebook he's Jane 108, and he's all about incredible about sacred geometry in the heart, and using maths through geometry to actually share the creation. But there's a thing called a cardioid, and is explaining with the Fibonacci sequence of the ratio of 1.618, the golden mean. If you have the spiral, the Fibonacci sequence, and then you reverse it, but you bring them together to mirror on the infinity point, which is where the spiral goes into infinity. Then what actually happens is you create this incredible dual heart. Actually, I'm going the wrong way. Terrible dual heart, where the two energies will never actually meet, because they can't, but they always get closer and closer in union. And realistically, it's the geometry of Hieroskamos, which you spoke so beautifully about. And it was just really, really fascinating and really resonated with me the other day when I saw it.
I didn't speak of it. Did I speak of it?
Yeah, you were talking about. I think you reshared a post or something about your meeting of Morgan and how she came into.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read your stuff.
I read your stuff. Yeah. That says a lot. It reminds me of a toroidal field when you were saying, it creates this, and then of course it'd be horizontal, but yeah. So
the same mathematics.
I like what you said too about the and I'm speaking energetics, not literal, but where you come back out of the haze and find yourself, you gave it up. Now we're living, that's an inversion. So we're living in a world where the patriarchal is the template. So therefore, in most cases, well, again, this is energy, and it's in all of us. The masculine energy is the standard operating procedure, right? Mm-hmm. And I love what your grandmother said, because there's the inverse, right? Mm-hmm. And so then inverse again, you're in a let's just say subordinate. You come out of it, you go in and say, hey, wait a minute, those are my pants. And then the dance begins. And this is what I was talking about. It's inevitable. It's inevitable in this world. This feminine frequency that said enough is enough has been heard already. And we know these things play out in the physical over a period of time because they've already been done in the energetic field. But now there's another part of it. And that's what you're describing, in your own ways, James coming out of the haze and on the other side, for the most part of the PTSD, or, whole enough to go in and not take back the pants, but create that space that you're talking about where they don't quite touch, but here in the middle, that's where it is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny energetically, like on the streets at the moment in Australia, talking to like my connected friends, especially in Melbourne. Melbourne's, that's all right. It's just doing its thing. It plays out. People forget we're playing a long game. Life is a long game. Mm-hmm. But our decisions in this moment reflect who we are. Mm-hmm. And therefore, that's really, really important at the moment is go back to what it is to be a man. What I realized the other day, just as a tangent, is I don't fear death as much anymore. I can't say I'm completely over the fear of death, but the other day, actually, I came to a point in meditation because I was really purging. Just my body was just saying enough's enough, getting rid of a lot of toxins, which caused a lot of headache and fever and everything like this. And And in time, one day we'll say we never catch anything off anyone. We'll actually say one day I resonated with that person in their disease. I feel that's where our understanding of interaction between people will come. But anyway, I was purging, and I came to this place where, I called death forward. And we're old friends for a number of reasons. And again, in their silence, in death silence, just looked at me and I was calm, just probably one of the most calmest I've ever been, in the presence of death. And then I broke through the veil of death, and there it was, my biggest fear at the moment. It's actually that I'd dishonor my code. And if you look at the energy of the masculine and often associated with the warrior, etc. Only one aspect I know of the masculine, but and it's not just the masculine, but bear with me. The whole point is honor is so huge for men. Like you can see it. My word is my bond is a simple statement that men will often make, not realizing how often they give away their word prematurely or out of balance because of the shadow you mentioned. And that whole deep fear of dishonor is actually my biggest issue, because I say issue because I must move through the fear. Otherwise I attract that situation into my life. But it's like, now I realize that in my union with Great Spirit, I'm a spirit having a human experience. So every moment of my life, I could look at it as a test. So every moment, do I choose honor? And honor for me, I realized, is it's bestowed from a higher station, a higher person down to someone, but it's only down because it's a bridge. It's a bridge. It's an energetic bridge from a higher station to someone that is completely aligned to the higher station. You look, it's given by, say, a politician or a queen to her knight or a person. Or she knighthood makes someone a knight, and that's demonstrating complete alignment of that person to the highest station. And if you flip it to the person who's being honored, that feeling inside, so rich, so pure, so humbling, it is my demonstration that I'm in complete alignment to my higher station, to spirit. And so I must act in alignment. Going back to my point about Melbourne at the moment, and everything that's going on down there, but it's going on quite a few places around Australia at the moment. There's a lot of dark feminine energy at play, really dark feminine energy at play, and she's such a betwixer. She's so amazing at the warrior goes in to fight the dark feminine and always walks away dragging his sword, going confused. What the hell just happened? Because you've engaged the wrong energy to confront that. Thanks, gorgeous. And left you just absolutely confused as to what the hell's going on. That energy needs to be sat in and really owned within. And it's one of the reasons, in my humble opinion, it's one of the reasons why the patriarchy went left field, went unbalanced, is because of the non-ownership of the actual dark feminine, the fear of the dark feminine. And if you look at it, witches, they weren't just burnt at the stake. More often than not, the stake was actually inserted through their legs, through their vagina, and they were burnt from the inside out, because that's the womb of creation. And there's so much symbolism behind that whole action. Yes, it's rancid, but it's so symbolic of where people were, and the fear of that creative power, which is chaotic. So, there's two ways of looking at society at the moment. It's all fucked, or we're in this incredible liminal phase of creation, which is birthing something completely new.
Yeah. You said a lot. I got like 8 things in
a couple
my
of
head.
tangents there, sorry.
No. It's all good. I'm with you. No, it's all very significant. I mean, it's that first part. It's we've got to eventually make the leap from man and woman, male and female, to a true masculine and feminine energy. If the dark mother is something that I have or you have, or, let's use that term, the man has shared space with, let's just put it that way. She's not outside of me. She's inside of me. You're talking about your feminine at the beginning of the show in the most personal terms and the only terms that really matter. Um, but going back to what you said just prior to that was, and this is very true, and I think most men will step back into that paradigm, can relate, which is that whole, I forget how you put it, but not getting the recognition or consideration. You're like a hard dick in a mule,
Hmm.
and this would go for especially someone like you who's been off to fight for his country, and these quote unquote sacrifices, and all that stuff. And I think that's got to be a program that's dying.
Hmm.
I know I lived it in my marriages, and I know a lot of men did. But we're transforming this thing. We're transforming this bitch. You know what I mean? So at some point we got to make this. And I love what you said about the reflections on the feminine and the masculine energy as it stands right now. Uh, there is no separation here. If you're a woman and I'm a man, or vice versa, uh, I'm looking at me, right? It's still me, but it happens in me. It's solved in me. It's aligned in me, and I really feel like we're on the cusp of this if we're not already in it. One of the things I could point at in my own personal experience is watching you and Kirsty. I've seen you guys show up here when you're not aligned. And I remember one time, it must have been one of those 50 times we're getting divorced. It would have happened just a few minutes prior, it seemed like. But you carry yourself and you talk about honor. What honor are we talking about? Are we talking about this honor from back here where men are men and women are women? Are we talking about this honor of the soul where the masculine and the feminine live inside each one of us? I do absolutely understand and can feel what you were saying in that example of, say, the queen knighting someone. Who is that someone? How does that feel? Yeah, because back in those days the queen was a god or a goddess, and the rulers were that. So can you imagine a physical being knighting you, uh, anointing you, and how that must have felt? I mean, that's a great analogy and a great metaphor to hold in my mind, because there is a new honor. It's, to thine own self be true, honor thyself. Another way to put it.
There's a great archetypal psychologist who right in the footsteps of Carl Jung, this guy called James Hillman, and he's really, really amazing about. He's probably one of the grandfathers of the modern men's movement, along with guys like Michael
Is there
Reed.
one? I never heard of it.
Yeah, interesting. I think it actually needs to die. It's just between you and me because of what you're suggesting and what I believe. I'm in alignment with what you're saying, because in its death, there's going to be a new rebirth, which is the union of the two. But it's still served a purpose, and I believe, well, it wouldn't exist if it doesn't serve a purpose. So anyway, James Hillman, amazing guy. But one of the points that he makes is in medieval times, when a father sat at the head of the table, behind him stood the king, and behind the king stood God. Now the father sits at the table, not the head, but at the table, and both God, king, are laying now on the shoulders of father, and the father is inadequately prepared and completely overwhelmed at that role. But the thing that I would like to add, he says that that's one of the reasons why the modern male is in such a crisis right now, dealing with all that responsibility that they've taken on. But the thing I would all add to that is that the universe never provides anything to us that we're not capable of dealing with. So it's actually happened for a reason. And the modern man is actually very capable of it, as is the modern woman, if we do what you're saying, and which is the internal journey of alignment, which it's like people forget healing. Like, healing sucks. It just like, that's my own personal opinion. Healing sucks, but I wouldn't have it any other way. And I get excited about when it's getting even suckier. I actually get excited nowadays. I don't know if it's masochistic, but
No wonder you go out to the bush all the time.
I'll tell you about my interaction with the snake in a minute. But anyway, the whole point is that this purification process, like we will face dis-ease all the time, because dis-ease is a fundamental element of growth. It's just like when you have a house and it's just a 1-bedroom house, and as a couple, and all of a sudden you've got kids, you're probably going to need to renovate. You're going to knock out a wall and put in another bedroom. That's the same with what healing is, and sickness. We need to, in my humble opinion, we need to revise what our understanding of sickness is. There's an amazing group called the Galileo Conference. And I think it's hilarious because of who Galileo is, and obviously that's the reason why they've used him. It's a UK group of scientists who are questioning the modern scientific paradigm, which is the reductionist, materialistic worldview, and they're bringing into question the actual paradigm and its validity, and the causes that it's actually had. And in society where we've lost, as a general rule, lost connection to anything greater than who we are, i.e. some divinity, then what actually happens is we lose meaning and we become so materialistically focused. Left brain, that's why everyone blames, externalizes, instead of internalizing and empowering. The false masculine, some people use toxic as a word. It's an interesting word. People use it for emotions as well. When you use the term toxic, you label an entity to such a degree that it then turns the general psyche away from it. So always be very careful about the words we use. Nothing is toxic about masculinity. It's out of balance. Nothing is toxic about emotion. They are out of balance. So what that means is that I need to go inside and I need to come into balance, come into alignment, therefore act in honor, and therefore I will heal. So this healing process will, if we choose, and lots of people aren't up for it. I know a lot of people that take their own life, and I deal in that space. I'm very good at grieving now. I've had many soldier mates, number of officers that serve beside me in war, take their own life when they know that I, on a daily basis, help people to get over that. And those people, I honor them and their choices, not because that I would do, well, I actually almost did the same. I know what it's like to be there, but I honor them simply for who they truly are, beyond their choice, beyond anything, their soul. And they, in this lifetime, they chose to leave. And many people are choosing to leave at the present moment. In Australia, we've got a real pandemic about adverse medical conditions at the moment, and the suicide statistics are actually being held from us. So especially the youth suicide statistics, really devastating. So, that whole thing it's just the cauldron. And we are so ready right now, if we choose to go. It's an inside, the whole thing about it being an inside job is so true, but done at a collective, it just amplifies.
Yeah. You said it. No, I was, the motorcycle was going by. I wanted to make sure I heard everything you said. You said a lot again. I like that part about, I don't understand, I'm not one of those that dives deep into, the nuts and bolts of the scientific, you know what I mean? But physiology, you're talking about the left brain, right brain. And that part of us was at the left brain that projects out, externalizes. That's not specific to one species, one gender or the other. This game is never going to get to a point of unity consciousness. It's just going to be a fucking pipe dream. I mean, it is time to walk the talk, and we're watching people change every single day, and it's amazing. But sooner or later, if you look at where we were and what we're becoming, it's two different things. Nothing applies back there that applies here. There's nothing we can bring from back there that we can bring here. And if you look at the relationship between the genders, it's a story. And there are programs and patterns and behaviors in that story that don't apply. We don't communicate the same way. It's just not the same thing. Um, so at some point, at some level, the discussion, and I'm not saying it's today, I'm not saying it's on this program, but gender, there is no, it's not even in the equation. And no, we're not going to become androgynous physical beings tomorrow. But how in the hell are we if we continue that separation when the reality is it's not that we're not attending to it, it's just that it's become an internal relationship versus an externalization that didn't suit us and didn't serve us and damn sure won't where we're headed. So, and I love the way that you draw the connection and the correlation to what's happening in the collective. It's hard to sit here and hear and see things, such as you telling me that they're there. The you, me, we, and it that's in physical incarnation is withholding information about young people offing themselves. That's a hard thing to hear. These are the things that we're transforming. These are the things that are distracting us. These are the distortions that are pulling us from each other, whether it's a man and a woman, or whether it's two different cultures or races. And the only thing, like I said, when we got on, and you looked at me and said whatever, I said, hey, you get up, you show up again. Because it is definitely a new day, like the Christians say, born again every day. And again, looking at the two of you and what you've shared bravely, because it takes guts. It takes guts, because whether you acknowledge it on the screen or not, the energy speaks for itself. And people aren't stupid. And we're all getting smarter and smarter. The telepathy is expanding. We're having more confidence where we're headed. But it is healing is tough. Letting go is tough. But what are we letting go of? Nothing. Because if I let go of the paradigm behind me where there's a Mars and Venus equation that's, handicap our growth, am I letting go of the masculine feminine energy? No, I'm walking into a more natural, aligned, and new relationship. So, that's why I love doing these shows. That's why I love these recent hero journeys, because there's nothing more potent, there's nothing more powerful than, regardless of who we're connecting to in the ethers, than to speak it out in the moment. And that's really all it's going to take, in my opinion. And whether it comes out shadowed, whether it comes out flawed or not, that's not the point. The point is I see people stepping into the arena now, and just giving it a shot. And that there's a lot to be said for that. So, there's so much that can pull us away from everything that got us to this point. But I don't know about you. I'm done. I'm done with all that.
Well, it's interesting. I think Kirsten and I have gone through our 51st divorce in the last 2 weeks, and since coming on your program. But you might have an alchemizing effect. I don't know, but I sat with her the other night. We're lying in bed, sitting up, and she came to a point where she wanted to open up. And so I got out of bed, and she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm not going to sit next to you when you're going to do this. I want to see you." So I sat opposite her, and I held space for her to go to the next level of believing that as a woman, she's not enough in my relationship with her.
Can you repeat that? I didn't get that.
She went to the next level of owning that I believe that she's not enough as a woman in my relationship with her. Now, yeah, we always speak frankly, so you're used to it. The like because I've always had a higher libido than Kirsty, but I just want to qualify what that is with my now understanding, is that I had a high level of energy that I had to keep ejaculating. I had to keep letting go of because I struggled to hold my own energy. And I hadn't come from a tradition of people that were versed in energy and had shown me a way. I had to go through my own journey of understanding. So lots of people, though, call it a very high libido. What they're talking about is quite regularly for men is the need to either have sex or ejaculate. And instead of realizing what that actual energy is in me and be able to dance with it, and vector it as opposed to get rid of it. Anyway, so because of my high libido though, and a constant desire to have sex with Kirsty for so long, she would get exhausted, bored, or whatever. And she's going, not again. No, we just the last 3 days. It's like, and then kids bringing kids into the factor as well, and everything changed when she had children. Yet my mind didn't change. My mind didn't consciously keep up with, and I didn't evolve as she was evolving physically, mentally, and emotionally with our family unit shifting. So I still had these, and I was unawake back then. So I still had these demands, and she used those demands in her external world to cement a judgment of herself that she just wasn't enough to her masculine, to her most outer reflection of her masculine, which was me. Keeping in mind that her father left her mother when she was 11. And so, she saw that, but that had been happening. That affair had been happening, she realized, for a number of years before he even left. So it was like her mother wasn't necessarily, in her mind, her mother's an incredible woman, like really seriously an amazing woman. And she ended up raising 3 daughters on her own. Like, I love that woman so intently. But for Kirst, there was a decision inside herself that it had been seen before, and she came into this world, she just wasn't enough. And I was playing the dance so perfectly for her shadow because she was just continually gathering evidence to prove this. Now, in our relationship, we woke up. We had to wake up like 12 years ago, otherwise I was going to take my own life. And constant journey of healing, et cetera, et cetera. And something that we've always done is we've maintained the constant inward focus of the healing journey within ourselves. And whenever something external flares its head, like I'm now to the point where I'll watch if 2 magpies move in front of me in a certain way and my eyes got them, I'm now looking at balance metaphysically, the yin and the yang. The magpie's all about balance. If I'm watching and all of a sudden I get a sense of an eagle soar over me, like eagle's about connection to spirit. So I'm stopping and realizing today I've got to zoom in, I'll tell you about the snake in a minute. That's twice I've mentioned it. So if a snake crosses my path, I'm gonna do some inner reflection. So we constantly work inwards. But the other night, she honored me by owning and weeping, but then coming to a place where there was there was peace.
Yeah.
In her ownership of it. She'd moved through the emotion. So often we think because we've had an emotional outburst, we've done the healing. No, it's actually only part of the healing process. And she sat there in complete ownership of it. And she said, "Where to from here?" And my answer was, "Who knows?"
And there you go. See, I mean, that's what I was saying earlier about if you look at the masculine and feminine, or male and female, as a story, I mean, at some point, and I'm not talking about relationships, I'm talking about life. Somebody said the other day, life is hard. I said, life is life. Life is life. And that's not a bad thing. Why does that have to be a bad thing? It's a good thing. So this stuff behind us, that's information. That's information. There's an old story. That dude, DT Suzuki, it's a Zen story, and it's 2 monks. They're sworn to whatever, and part of their whatever is you can't speak to women. So they leave the monastery and they're walking down the street, down the path, and there's a woman with a child that can't cross because there's water in the road. So one monk walks over to the woman and said, "May I help you?" And he lays down his smock, and she walks over the road. And so the two monks started walking to town, and the one monk says, "How dare you? Who the fuck do you think you are, man? You just broke a vow. You talked to that woman." And he said, "Well, I left her back there. Did you?" My point is, it's not about that anymore. How the hell are we going to find anything new if we're stuck on the old? And so it's about where we're at and where we're going. So yeah, I totally get what she said. Where to now? Mm. And this is, James, we're on you've been places most of us haven't. I got nothing on you. That's I have friends that served, and I've heard stories, and I've been with them, and I've seen. I thought I had PTSD. We all have fucking PTSD, but not like that. Not when you see the things that you've seen and experienced yourself. But it's all information. We're moving past the human condition, and we think, let me bypass. Let me go connect to my higher self. I'm my fucking higher self, right? I'm God. I'm the goddess. I'm both. It's my voice I'm listening to. I'm doing the speaking. If I want to segment those and separate them, then maybe I can, and maybe that benefits me. But at some point, oneness is oneness, one voice, right? And so we've got enough information. We're on the cusp of something major here. Is it going to get more distorted? By all points that I've seen, everyone's saying, and look what's being presented, and look what's being withheld. This is what we came here for, not to wear out that old phrase, but we've prepared, we're ready, and we hold. You can relate to this. You hold it. You hold the line. Hold the line. To sit here and talk to someone like you, who I totally admire, as a brother and as a soul and as a person, to hear you say, "I'm still working death out." That's the real shit. That's it. That's it. Oh, well, death isn't real. Oh, get over it. Somebody died or whatever. No. You still got to feel it for as long as you need to. And I think this world, this distortion that's expanding, evidently, and yes, be careful what you say because we're casting spells every day. It's going to be here for as long as we need it. That's it. Until we get everything we need from it. And I think a big part of the transformation is going to be how we handle what comes at us. And I believe very, very strongly that these embodied connections of typically, a man and a woman, but not always. Bodies don't always fit the primary gender energetic, but I believe these gods and goddesses in the flesh that are connecting and anchoring have a huge role. And there's more roles. There's other types of templates or, troops, but so it's why would it be any different for an individual than it would be a couple, or a couple as it would be an individual or a group or a world?
It's a dance.
That's what I say. Has the dance begun now? At some, if it hasn't started already, it's inevitable. How the hell are we going to get to oneness until that thing that you described? If it's not there, it's never going to happen. And what is that? Somebody came on earlier today. She said, "Yeah, I'm stepping from the comfort of my known existence into the from the uncomfortable that I know into this unknown, which I don't know what it's going to be like." Right. And that's what we're doing.
It's really interesting, and a lot of this journey I see it's to understand attachment is to really it's to really liberate yourself when you understand attachment. And like so often we get attached to something because of our own level of self-importance. Case in point, you mentioned that I'm a veteran from war. In Australia at the moment, with the collapse of Afghanistan, there's a lot of people that are served in that theatre of operations, which are really struggling now because they're asking the question that the Afghanistan conflict was Australia's longest protracted conflict. They're asking themselves, is what I experienced and what I gave and my service, what's it for? And that is such a pivotal question, not just for a veteran, but for anyone. And a lady, I'm not too sure who it was, mentioned her son's in Sydney in lockdown at the moment and struggling. If a person doesn't understand what something is for, they don't understand meaning. They don't have meaning. They don't have that connection that meaning provides. Life is a real struggle town. It's really, really struggle town. But the more we allow ourselves to have with things we call committed detachment. So I am fucking committed as hell to life, but I'm detached from the outcome because I know that I live through varying veils of ignorance. I'm always in ignorance. It's just the degree will shift. And so therefore I let go of the need to know and go to the desire for awe and wonder, which actually therefore means my cup is so much more open to receiving information through to knowledge, which I can then embody into wisdom. And that's that's the process. Like my body is in this dimensional reality right now, and my spirit through soul incarnates in this form. And I've done that for a reason, of which I will understand the amount that um, my dimensional reality will allow me to understand, which continually evolves and continually grows and enriches. But I can't bypass this. Like I went into I went into Mullumbimby the other day, and I sat there for a deliberate reason to test myself. And I sat there and I watched and I engaged people with a smile. And what I did is I prepared myself to go in by amping my frequency from my heart space, by actually listening to a couple of songs beforehand that allow me to really tune into a level of frequency of love. And then I walk and I place myself, and then I sit and I watch and I smile and I engage people. And I did that to test myself now, because I've watched fear come up in me in the last week or so. Fear of what? Fear of the naughty little boy, about being found out. Because I don't believe what another person believes, so therefore I must be a naughty little boy. And that's a childhood wound, in which it's really interesting to watch it come up now, play with it, let him have his voice, and then say, cool, go back to the playground. I'm going into the boardroom and I'm going to make a decision. The inner child doesn't belong in the boardroom. And so, but to sit in that place and to watch people, and to watch people get really angry at each other, and be able to watch it not going, oh, why the fuck are you getting angry at each other? Divide and conquer is a simple bloody technique of governance since bloody Nero, actually before that, Babylonian times. So why are you fucking bowing to them? I could go down that line. I could get really, really angry. And I'm simply polarizing myself in that moment. And what am I embodying in that moment? I'm embodying the pole. Or I could go completely opposite and go, it's all okay. It's just perfect. It's love and light and everything. And it's truth. They're dead true. There is love and light. But again, I'm completely poled. Or I can sit in the middle and I can watch, and I can watch and engage that moment, and know in that moment that spirit speaking through me will instruct me how to act in that moment. It might tell me to go to a pole, and I'm not attached to being center. I can move to a pole, either pole. I can go love and light because that's what's needed right now, or I can go, no, that's my boundary right there, Jen. Do not cross that boundary, motherfucker, or you'll fucking know about it.
Yeah.
Or I can sit center and just smile. And they then get pissed off about me not answering. And that's because this conversation's not about me.
That's
I'm
right.
just told.
That's
So,
right.
yeah, fascinating time.
Yeah, you brought up the thing about the naughty little boy. Just even if we look at inner child, we look at some of the nomenclature and things that we've been, presented with over the last, even from the 90s, from when New Age came out, right? They're all the same program. How many people have felt they want to get clean? What is that? It's a fucking program. It's called victim consciousness. And guess what? It's back there, and what we're creating, it doesn't exist. And the only way that it will dissipate and then allow for space for our new creations and new lives and new possibilities to come true is to let go of it. And it's got us all by the balls. Every single one of us. No one is immune. I love what the lady said that came on earlier today. She said, or who, I don't know who it was actually. Oh, it was the lady, yeah. And she says, it's okay not to be okay. Being not okay doesn't make you dirty. Victim consciousness makes you dirty. So I'm not okay, James. And guess what? I'm not in victim consciousness. But there was a time I didn't want to say I was not okay because I was in victim consciousness. And if I said I'm okay, then everyone thinks I'm a good little boy. I'm not the naughty little boy. We're not fighting the literal physical. We're not fighting, period, but we're not contending with the literal representations of the energies that are playing here, be they stormtroopers in the street or information being withheld. We all know this is a joke. When you tell me this story, and I saw somebody make a comment, I can't even imagine. I cannot even imagine being a veteran who was there and saw action, who is watching this fiasco, and literally who was died in the wool, 100% God, country, family, and goes, what in the hell? It made me think for a second that maybe all of this control that's being put forth, which is really nothing more than a ruse when it comes to the soul, is being put in place because there's going to be people, many people, such as a veteran who went over there. I think of a friend of mine who I drove down the street with. I think I told you about it. We're driving next to a railroad track, and there was a ditch, and he kept looking for IUDs. He ran 3 stop signs in Houston, Texas, in the middle of a busy area. So what's going to happen to, we mentioned psyche, you mentioned psyche, what's going to happen to just that little segment of people? They're going to come out and they're going to want some answers, and they might want some blood, or whatever the case is. It's not going to work. The faucet's on. We started the beginning of this with the feminine. The feminine's rising in all of us, and it's not going to be stopped. And now the dance has begun because just think about the world trying to contend with this feminine energy that's come out like a volcano. And just when they think, oh shit, well, we knew this was coming, we'll put this in place and that in place and discredit this and whatever. And then guess what? Here comes the other side. Here comes the other half. This is the dance. It's just started. And I know we could get lost in, like you said, it's all love and light. Well, it's also dark. And the Bible didn't say, let there be dark. It said, let there be light.
But it had to be dark before light.
Exactly. maybe that's where we all came from, that big mystery and void. And then that whole thing is, okay, who made God? Well, I don't know. Go in there and find out.
Go into the darkness and find out.
Yeah, because I don't think you're going to find it. This is
I was,
the cycle of life, right?
I was spending my my mandatory 20 minutes sitting in nature the other day, and I walked back down and I came round, and we've got this cattle grid, which is a series of railway tracks with a ditch in it that they have a grill, and so cattle can't get over it. But there's this I could go over that, or there's a little gap about 1 meter I could slip straight through, but it's on a gully, so it goes over the top of a gully, and there's a lot of ferns and rushes and stuff like that. Anyway, so I've come down around and I've placed my foot down, and about a foot away from me is the tail of a very long brown snake.
Which is very poisonous.
Yeah, mate.
I've already checked that. I've already checked that out.
yeah, they're the good ones. They're not a python. Like a python, indigenous to this country actually look at them as two different beings, constrictor and then a venomous snake. And there's a lot to energetically said to that. But the brown snake's like death. And she was lying there, sunning herself. And like, as I stopped and I saw her, like all I actually saw was this glimmering of her scales. She was beautiful. And our eyes locked. She knew I was there. And I just was there for a moment with her, like mid-pace, because I've stopped. And later I realized there was no fear in me, which is really interesting around a brown snake. Because like I've been around a lot of snakes before. Last brown snake I was around, I killed because I had a mentality. Only good snake was a dead snake. That was a few years ago. But we locked eyes, and then I went, "You are so beautiful. I want a photo." So I went to put my water bottle down and pull my phone to get a photo, and she just said, "No," zipped off. No, that wasn't about capturing that moment. The moment was captured already.
Yeah.
And I sat with the moment because I went in, and again, you know, something like this doesn't. For me, I believe, and this is just my way of living life and looking at life. I'm in communion in the external as a indicator for my journey internal. So I see my internal and external as a mutually non-exclusive dance. And anyway, so I sat with it, and I've gone. So in essence, death came with me, like pure evil came right in front of my face. Now, I'm not saying that a snake is evil, by the way, but I'm just representative in that moment was pure evil. And in my meditation, what I saw is these clouds of lightning, dark lightning. And I actually found myself walking down a street in my meditation, this main street of Mullumbimby, and there's this constant like clouds of dark energy just around me. And I'm walking, I have to actually move. I can't walk straight, because if I walk straight, I'm going to hit this energy. And instead of igniting fear in me, there was this level of acceptance that there's real evil there. But I don't have to change it. It's like what I can simply do is, because if I feel I have to change it, then I have to engage it, and I get embroiled in that fight. I've been there I came onto this planet fighting. You know, I came out of my mother's womb, hit the ground, and just kept fighting from then on. There's a photo of me at the age of 3 with an M16 plastic gun. You know, I was out hunting as soon as I could with guns. You know, and then I bloody well joined the military. So you know, the whole fight was there categorically in my nature. Anyway, this meditation and this interaction with this snake demonstrated to me that all I need to do, go back to what I said about going into the main street of Mullumbimby, is to amp my frequency and actually come back into center. And then in that moment, go into an interaction, not a reaction to the world, not even a response to the world, but an interaction with the world. Go back to this dance you talked about right up front. And this is where, you know, if you want to take what I think is the first stage of the next dance, it's for us that to come to this interplay, this interaction with the external world, because we've danced so much with the internal world. And like at the moment, it's like the whole world has just experienced September 11th. And you remember the scenes and the photos and the movies of the dust clouds, plumes coming down the alleyways, and these people just coming out who are white, tears, and they're stumbling out in shock. Well, It's time for us who've actually got past the dust cloud. We've experienced the shock and awe, and we're out of the dust cloud now to use our flashlights and to use our voice and push the light back into the cloud for those that can hear, to actually be reassured that it's okay. You can come this way, this way, this way. Not for us to go back into the cloud. We go back in the cloud, we get lost. Yeah, we stand on the outside as a beacon, and that beacon is the way to come. And it's not that we egoically claim to be the way, we simply embody what the way has been shown to us. And if in the esoteric traditions of Christianity, they would call this, in the Church of John, they call this Christ consciousness. So we actually tune to that frequency, which is in the matrix around the globe, and then people come to us. But it's in that moment that we can choose. Do we go back into the cloud, which is not embodying it? If we embody it truly, we stand on the edge of the cloud and we say, hey, over here. And people will come out that in a previous life we would have judged as inadequate, as wrong, as violent, as vile. And it's our choice now to let go of that judgment and to see their soul and to assist them cleanse their soul and bring them through. And if anyone thinks I'm altruistic, I'll throw an international relations example at you. A guy called Janana Guzmão, who was the first president of East Timor, the new East Timor, after its cessation from Indonesian rule. When I was an operations captain in the Australian National Command element over there, I watched Janana preach that we need to repatriate and reconcile. And I go, but dude, like, these people slaughtered families, like literally got all the males in the village and walked them off a cliff, 100 of them. I was taken to the site where they did that. And it's like, what the fuck? How could you stand there saying reconcile and reintegrate? And I'm going, like, I couldn't get it. Why? Because I was too low vibrating. I could not understand this saint. In my humble opinion now, I look at a man who is now, like, sure, his team has got a long way to go. It's quiet on the news now because it's not, it doesn't have big bangs and bombs and everything going off. It's not sexy anymore. But if there's a man who's practiced it and a living example of something which I feel if we bring in as just individuals going to the main street of your town, going to Houston, going to wherever it is and do this, it's the next step, man.
Yeah, let's walk in the talk. And that's a pretty extreme example. But, that's another thing. You brought up the Christians. That I'm Christian. I'm Buddhist, whatever. I mean, I'm not trying to, but they used to have those bracelets years ago, back in the 80s, WWJD, what would Jesus do?
All right, yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. I mean, and now, are you going to pass, fail? Are you going to be clean or dirty? These are, they're not even applicable. I mean, and again, it's such a fine line because it's almost like what we're putting out. We better really check ourselves as best we can, what we think, what we say, what we do. And I'm talking about in respect to anything external, be it a person or a pandemic or whatever the hell it is. Because it's whatever we do is going to be what's perpetuated. So I can't even imagine. I never heard that story. I appreciate you telling me. No wonder you don't read anything else about them anymore. They're probably the biggest nirvana in the world at this point. You know what I mean? That's a powerful energy. That's a very powerful soul to even be able to pull that off. But yeah. There's no doubt. I mean, we got 2 strikes on YouTube a couple of weeks ago. Which one was the David Icke? And I know he's a big target. We had a great conversation again. It was the second conversation, and there was minor talk for 5 minutes about what's happening. Got it taken off. Another one that week was taken off. I was talking to a beautiful lady. That subject came up. It doesn't matter. In fact, everything that's being put out there is not even what's really happening. What's really happening, that's why I often wonder about Soulogy, because I get a lot of messages and comments and people I don't know, and it's just expanded. Morgan was in Gimpy, and some couple walked up to her and said, Morgan, yeah, I mean, like that happened to us in Northern California in a town of about 400 people. So that's just an example. How many of them, the only them or they that really matters to me is us, because we're all them. But how many of us is there? I mean, I have a feeling, I don't know, I know you've had a lot of altercations, and I don't know if everyone can relate to this, but probably energetically they can at some point in their life. But it's when that bully comes at you, and you finally say what has actually occurred here, where that feminine part of us, all of us, man, woman, child, has said enough is enough. And then you get up and you walk up to the bully and say, what's up? And he falls over like a feather. I have a feeling this is how it's going to go down. And when that happens, we're all going to be laughing our asses off. And granted, there's a lot of growing to be done between now and then. And there'll be a lot of growing to be done from that point on. This is life. This is a cycle of life. This is a cycle of creation. We have created a realm that is a masterpiece and the latest and greatest cutting edge technology. Now, then you have the human, and the human's going, fuck this shit. That's not right. And it's not. But like you said earlier, you said something about nothing's given to us. I mean, it's purpose. There's purpose, and we can handle it. That's an understatement.
Yeah.
It's such a fine line to hold that neutrality and to put yourself in that place that you did when you go to, what's it called? Bumblebee? Bumblebee.
Yeah. I like that one. I'm going to use it.
But truly, I mean, what a great exercise. I used to do it with the cop videos, pulling people out of cars and all that stuff to check myself. And I failed miserably over and over and over until the day came. And if it can be done once, it can be done again. And I guess ultimately every single moment that we have as we traverse this journey is the same thing. It's the same thing. You have this example of in East Timor, you weren't the same person. You weren't the same person the last time I saw you. Neither was I. Right? I mean, let's give ourselves a little credit. Enough of the doom and gloom bullshit. I mean, there's another side to this. There is an unexplainable, mysterious, unknowable expansion occurring. We're somewhat cognizant of it, but we have no idea how far this thing can go. And let's face it, the doom and the gloom and the way we set this thing up, it's finite, but we're not. And I think that
point about the long game.
Yeah. What's that?
It goes back to the point about the long game, and it's our choice in every moment how we act. Do we act with respect, reverence, and responsibility? And that includes to a bully, because if you don't act with respect, reverence, and responsibility to a bully, you are attempting to either be one of two things: the victim or the bully. So you're still on the whole. Yeah. So it is time for some bullies to have people walk up to them and see them.
Yeah.
To look them right in the eye, through the facade, and cut to the core of the issue. But do it with the power of love in your heart, because if you don't, you'll act out of balance and you'll fall out of respect, out of responsibility, and out of reverence for the situation. And you will fail the test. And what I mean by fail the test, I know that people don't like failure used nowadays, but the thing is, your vibration will fall. That is what failure in this essence means. So your vibration will fall, and you will cause energetic cords to the old way that we're talking about letting go. That happens. How do we operate from this moment on? We go back to the old law, and that old law has been time in memoriam telling us actually how to be. And in essence, respect, reverence, and responsibility, that I control my thoughts, my words, my deeds, and I act through that. And it has to be a win for you, a win for me, and a win for the divine. But I can't necessarily know from my perspective what a win is for you. So how do I therefore act in confusion and chaos and complexity? I can only do that by coming back into center and knowing I am acting through guidance. And I can only know I'm acting through guidance when I do the emotional work to clear my emotional turbulence and suppression, so that I act from a pure place. I purify myself first. Go back to what the ancients used to say. One would never be illuminated without sanctification first. I had to sanctify myself in whatever way, in ritual, ceremony, prayer, whatever. I sanctify myself, and then illumination will follow. Illumination can't come if I am impure. That's what they're talking about. So it all goes back to me first. First and foremost, every day, what is my ritual to purify myself so that I can act my intention, plus therefore following, infusing my action and giving me the outcome. My intention is set up in its purest possible form. And then I see and I go, right, in this moment, I'm not going to act at that bully, because if I interject, that person who the bully is overpowering is therefore going to remain a victim. That person, if I let this situation play out, there's an opportunity for that person to actually find it inside themselves to stand up. And all of a sudden, instead of going up and having protected them, I go up afterwards and I say, I see you and you're a fucking awesome individual. And that therefore reinforces the power and the frequency upgrade that individual has had. So we can't say there's no template what to do in this day and age. There is a rule book, and it's old, and it's as old as ages. It was given to us at time immemorial, and it's very, very simple. But that's the issue. People want it to be so all defining. It is in its simplicity. It has to be, but it comes to free will and choice, how I choose to act in this moment. As to, if I go back to that thing I said right up front about honor, do I act in honor, or do I dishonor myself? If I dishonor myself, I come out of vibrational alignment to the higher station, higher plane, and therefore my connection is dropped.
Yeah. And if we, I mean, it's almost impossible, to take that initiative, to take that approach. And you're talking about natural law, universal law, from where we're coming from, and it not be 100% alignment. Now, the intention is the gold, right? I mean, that's the measure. But what I'm trying to say is, whatever it looks like when that step is taken, keep going. And if there's a little bit of collateral damage, hopoponopo, because that's the same frequency as what your intentions were when you took the act. And you're right, there isn't a template created yet. We're doing it. We're doing it. That's why all of this up here, I really struggle with higher self now. Not then, but now. I struggle with team. I struggle with, because I'm the boots on the ground. I'm the boots on the ground. And just because I'm in the body, doesn't, in fact, it may put me on point, and probably is. We probably are on point. So we've learned from our aspects. We've learned from the universe. We've learned from this shit show. And that which you speak of, it's interesting, because I received a message from a brother who I've collaborated with going back 4 years. And we don't talk all the time, and we have a good relationship, good connection. We've been through the highs and the lows. He does his thing and we do our thing. And he hit me up and he said, just a suggestion, brother. Take it or leave it. No problem. You might consider getting professionals, or whatever word he used, people that understand natural law and universal law. And he was speaking in the context, at least from my perception, and I could be wrong, and here we go, of people that are, fighting it out there. But now that I'm listening to you, it's probably not such a bad idea. Bring people on, because the thing is, this natural law, this universal law that you speak of, that is very real, it's in all of us. It's innate. And like everything else, sometimes we got to hear something before it gets turned on. And so I'm going to have to do what I just said. I'm going to have to message him back and say, hey, bud, I'm open. I mean, let's talk about it. Let's take it a little further. It may not change my mind, because obviously I said to him, it's just not our cup of tea. We're looking at the code coming through the stories of the transformation of the human on an individual level. But maybe it's not such a bad idea. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's out there that I, even in the last few days, and I knew it this morning because I literally got 5 messages this morning from people fairly close or close to me. And I could tell, I knew right away. And I did what you did in Bumblebee, or whatever it's called. That's immediately what I did. I got in front of the mirror and I said, okay, this has happened before. We've been through this before. Let's try something different. Take a few breaths, poured some coffee, walked outside, put my feet on the ground till they got really dirty, walked inside, and then proceeded to move forward to the best of my ability. Was it flawed? Absolutely. Was the intention pure? Yes. Was it new? Yes. Will it bring new experiences? Yes, I believe so. And I think this is what you're talking about and how we move forward. But if I look at, like, even the information I've seen the last few days, I think about some of the prognostications that Franco has made, or other people, and what's ahead of us over the next year and a half, before we get to the other side of that smoke cloud that you were talking about. It doesn't even matter to me right now, because here's where we're at. But I hear things like there's going to be 6 billion walk-ins over the next 2 or 3 months. I don't know if that's true, but I'm open. I'm open to higher aspects, 6 billion strong, 3/4 of the population dropping in to us. Maybe that will level the playing field and cut the bullshit a little bit. Maybe we need, maybe part of what this growth is that naughty little boy that you're talking about, that we've all felt. We've all been. We've had no choice. It was brought to us from day one. I heard a horrible story about somebody yesterday about what his mother did to him. We've all been naughty and we weren't, and if it takes 6 billion drop-ins for us to have an even playing field and everybody get off their high horse, then so be it. This human being, and I'm talking about us, all of us, will fulfill, I think already has really, and will maximize the potential of this mission, this expedition, this experience. And there's no doubt in my mind it's going to be through, I'm sorry, it's a little drag. I just want to say there's no doubt in my mind it's going to happen through what you basically laid out with what you did and do when you went into that place that starts with a B. Bumblebee, yeah. But I mean, really, nobody can stop you from doing that. Nobody can help you do that. really. Nobody can, you know what I mean? I mean, this is literally all in here, and I'm going to go do this. And I'm going to go into it consciously and hold that space and do my best to stay within the lines. Okay. I mean, I would think that you probably got some very strange looks when you were down there, you know, approaching people with that energy. I mean, that would be like, what, don't you know what's happening? You know, absolutely I do, which is precisely why I'm here and what I'm doing what I'm doing.
It's like, goes back to the point. Before I go on, what's a drop-in? Excuse my ignorance.
A drop-in, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have been so presumptuous, but I mean, they talk about it on the show. I asked that question for a long time, and I used to hear it all the time on this show. Basically, higher aspects. They call it walk-in. I'm sorry, walk-in, drop-in. Higher aspects of ourselves walking in. I've seen Morgan go through it. I've seen a lot of people talk about it. And it can be something very, very evidentiary. You know, like I know a lady in Canada. She was 20 years hooked on meth and heroin and had no desire to change whether she could or not. She has a walk-in, boom, next day, she gives it all up and goes the other direction. Or it can be, you know, some people talk about having more than one throughout their life. But Jason Estes has put out some intel, and I saw it somewhere else too, not said the same way, that there's going to be 6 billion drop-ins. Now, if you look at walk-ins, if you look at Dolores Cannon, Franco, Edgar Casey, they talk about the extras or the background people. I think Jason calls them the NPCs, that are about 70% of the earth. Now, are they soulless? No, they kind of have they kind of pull from one soul. Their role has been to facilitate the story. So maybe those people are getting lit up. Maybe I'm getting lit up. I don't know. But the reason I brought that up is because I'm open. I know that there's far more out there than what in general we've been talking about, and that is on everybody's mind. If you go to Christmas, maybe not now, but 20 years ago, and you went into meditation around Christmas, you're probably going to see a bunch of Santa Clauses in the ethers, because that's where everybody's head is. So where do you think everybody's head is now? Is it going to require what you described and what's happening within yourself, a higher version of yourself, to sustain and perpetuate and expand this that we are? Probably so. How does that happen? I don't know. But so to hear it said that way, I'm open to it. It looks to me that it's positive, and I seriously look at everything that's happened in the last year and a half as being very positive, because there's been a lot of self-introspection, and now we're getting to the point where, as you said, and I saw this a month ago, sitting here on camera with Morgan, and I brought up. She said there's some marches it was either Melbourne or Sydney. So you can when you're on Instant Messenger, you can go pull a video off Facebook and you can watch it together. And I remember, first of all, there was a bunch of many women, which was kind of surprising but made sense, right? And then at one point, the jackboots came in and started circling people and doing things. And I heard a woman kept saying, remember, nonviolent, remember. In other words, some of them were going to get, hey, leave them alone, you know, and that. And she said, remember. And it was the energy that what you are talking about. It was the energy of not ignoring, but not responding in the old ways and trying this new way, WWJD in the bracelet that I was talking about. What would Jesus do? I really feel that's where it all begins and ends. And a lot of the rhetoric will go away, because that will become everybody's awareness, just like it has been for yourself, the way you talk about it.
Yeah, my old man left me with a number of maxims, and I'm very blessed that he did. You know, he passed in 2003, and these maxims have been, you know, people rave about legacy, you got to leave a legacy or whatever. A lot of that's a going, but these maxims have really been massive for me, you know, and one of them was, you've got to earn your own stripes. You can't just, his point was, you can come back and have the farm if you want, but you've got to go away, earn your stripes before you come back onto the farm. Otherwise you'll simply be Alan Greenshields' son. Now, he wasn't talking about the farm. He was talking about life. You know? Matter of fact, in my stream that I went into in the military Armoured Corps, my father is the Royal Australian Armoured Corps. My father is the first life member of the Royal Australian Armoured Corps Officers Mess, and he wasn't even a member of the Corps. He was an honorary member of the Corps as a padre, because he was the first chaplain to serve in war with them for a significant amount of time. So he left me with a lot of these maxims, but the one that really has been resonating lately is, you're the only one who governs whether or not you sleep straight in bed at night. And it's such a simple statement, but it's actually so profound in its simplicity. And it's asking, it goes back to that point. In any moment, I could look at life as a test, or in every moment, I could just look in an interactive play to be the best version of me. Now, again, as you say, will I come up short at times? Quite regularly, you know, I've come up short. But at the same time, is acknowledging that I went on the footy paddock to play best on ground. It's like being a dad, you know. I've got a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old. And, you know, have I been the best dad in the world? What? Are you serious? Is there a thing? We'd love for there to be a thing. But, you know, but have I gone on to the footy paddock every day playing my guts out to be best on ground? Now, I realize that it's not me who judges that in that respect, in that external world, but it's me in the internal world who sits in the change rooms afterwards and goes, did you give it all you got? Now, quite regularly, I sit in the change room and I go, dude, you left yourself wanting today. You know, you got wrapped up in some serious story bullshit that, buddy, took you well away from what actually was going on. Cool. But I'm going to go on the paddock tomorrow. As you said before, you know, you wake up for a new day. I'm going to get back on the paddock tomorrow, and I'm going to go out there with the intention of playing best on ground.
Yeah.
And bring it on. Like, I salivate. I love footy. Well, footy's life. So it's up to me to govern whether or not tonight I go to bed sleeping straight or not.
Yeah. Yeah. Right on.
I always like bringing things back to simplicity.
I do too. I think maybe there was a time to explore the complications and you know, the complexities, but I think at some point it becomes exhausting. At some point, we got to stop beating a dead horse. We know what we're dealing with here. Out there is a reflection of all of us. I mean, none of us separate from that. So if that's out there, that distortion and illusion and non-disclosure, then it's here too. So, but there's also something else out there. That's God and Goddess out there. That's the universe out there. That's source. That's me. And I think for too long, in some of the narratives, if you know, people that research all that boogeyman stuff, and I have, and I still touch base with it now and then just to see what I can pick up on. The motivation behind the whole shit show is what? To keep us from seeking the power that we are, because this shit show ain't got nothing on one of us. So I'm excited about this year, the rest of this year. Do I think it's going to be peaches and cream? I don't want to speak anything into the field. I'm open for anything. And that doesn't just mean a lightning bolt coming out of the sky and me being able to grab it with my hand. it also means the level of distortion. Will I be able to have a show with my friend James every few weeks? I don't know. Will there be any use for this? I don't know. But it's okay because I'm going to go footy with my brother. You know, I'm going to get up every day. I'm going to, I told Morgan yesterday morning, I get messages now and then, and really, truly, James, 98% of them in 10 years have been absolutely fantastic. Every now and then you get one and you look at it. And I said to her, people can say whatever the hell they want to say about me on this show. The wounded part of me said, let them sit in this fucking chair for 7 days while the energies beat their ass, and they do this. And then I'll listen to them. But that was the ego. That was the wounded boy,
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, I'm blessed. We're all blessed to be here. And by God, I'm going to make the best of it. But don't think for 1 second that, I think part of being awake is that conversation that you have with yourself that you just described at the end of the day to see if you could have done something better. It's not about what we do right, and it's really not about what we do wrong. It's about what we can do better. And so you go to bed, and like your dad said, you sleep how you want, and then you get up and you live basically same thing, how you want. And if you're going to be straight sleeping and you're going to be straight living, then more power to you. But it's not going to be, we're not going to be walking on water, walking on water anytime soon. This is history in the making. And and life is life. And what we have now we'll never have again. Not this moment, not this day, it's gone. And so I want to just enjoy it. And I think I'm not any different than anybody else. I think what we see out there is presented to us is they don't call it the 1% for nothing. It's about 1% of the consciousness. And we're Toto standing behind the curtain and we're about to rip that bitch down.
Which actually then goes to your point about walking on water, because analogously what that actually means is the person walks on top of their subconscious, because the ocean, the water is the subconscious. So if you're actually able to walk on top of it, it means you're actually shedding light on it all. Your subconscious no longer governs you. You're actually conscious you. And that's the whole point about becoming enlightened. Someone can walk on water, they're enlightened.
I never heard that.
Yeah,
well, actually, that's far out. That's far out.
No, but you just linked that also beautifully. Naturally.
Dude, I got to go wee, as you say in Australia.
Right.
Man, I miss you, and I love you. And tell Kirsty hi. Give her a third eye kiss. Best to you and your family, your beautiful family, and that's all we got. I know I'll see you in the physical one day. So until then,
I got your spot up next to my fire all laid out for you,
dude. I don't give a shit. As long as I get on that continent, that's all I care about. You can sleep. I'll sleep with the brown snakes. I don't care. Take care. I love you.
Love.
See y'all tomorrow.